Hello.
Hi.
We are back with Love Your Shelf. And just as a reminder, we're a podcast that reviews books. Yeah, I realized that the other day that I was listening to another podcast, and I was like, they were really repetitive at the beginning and saying, this is what the podcast is about, and I'm so-and-so, and this is the other person, and like a big introduction.
Yeah.
And I was like, we never do that.
No, we just assume our many followers are jumping right in with us.
Yes. Why would we need to introduce ourselves? So I'm Crystal.
I'm Emily.
And we're going to talk about books.
Yeah.
And we're with the Nacogdoches Public Library.
Oh, that too.
Another little detail. Yeah.
Also important information.
So it's not just, we're not just doing this for funsies. Although this is...
It is fun. I'm not mad at this.
Yes. So I'm going to jump right in.
Dive in, girl.
We got all that introduction out of the way. To some books that I've been reading in the last week. And the first one I want to talk about is called Delicate Condition by Danielle Valentine.
Nice.
And it is a thriller / horror, a little bit more on the thriller side, I would say. But definitely has some horror elements.
Cool.
But it's basically about a woman. She's a not super successful actress, kind of struggling a little bit with her career and also with fertility. So she's been trying to do IVF to get pregnant, and she finally gets pregnant, and then there's something wrong.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so I don't want to go into any detail there, but so there's, mystery involved, like things are happening around her. And like we were talking about, I think last week, there's a little bit of an unreliable narrator situation because she is not believed by the people around her. And so it makes the reader kind of question her a little bit.
What's she telling us?
Yeah. It's, reminiscent of Rosemary's Baby, that kind of thing. And then after I read it, I realized that they had made a season of American Horror Story.
Okay.
Based on this book.
Really?
Yeah. Which I haven't watched that show in a long time.
I watched the first season.
I watched probably the first two seasons.
I think I watched the first two. Yes, I did not like the second one. It was real creepy and gross.
Yeah.
They're all creepy and gross.
They're very creepy and gross.
Yeah, now there are like 47 seasons or something.
They just keep doing it.
Kim Kardashian was in one of the last seasons.
What?
Like not playing herself, playing like a character, I guess.
Oh, no.
I'm so curious. I'm sure it's bad.
Don't you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched part of the one. Well, we don't have to get into that. I will just say that I'm not a super fan of it.
Yeah.
Although there were, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's just it wasn't my jam.
I used to think I hated horror in general, and I think it's because I became a teen in like the early 2000s when I feel like horror movies were all super gory, graphic, and disgusting.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of some examples.
Saw and all
that.
Yes,
exactly.
Saw kicked that whole genre off, kind of.
Exactly.
And then everything was all torture and stuff.
And so then, like, in college, I watched, like, The Shining and, really good horror movies. And so I like horror, but, I'll watch Haunting at Hill House on. But American Horror Story is, like, too far in that weird, gory
so
direction.
Comparing those two things, I think, is a good point because, and we're kind of diverging here, but we're going to go ahead. But American Horror Story, I never could follow, like, the main plot or it's just kind of all over the place to me.
And just all scary.
Yeah, and just kind of, like, random crazy stuff happens. And I could never really... Not that I need things to be, very, in a straight line or whatever.
Right.
I get that, but it just wasn't for me. But, like, Haunting at Hill House, that one had a lot of odd things that happen in it.
Unexpected
but it all makes
story elements. But yes, like, it all came together and, like, fit and made sense.
Yeah.
And American Horror Story seems just kind of, it's kind of kitschy.
It's kitschy, and it's like throwing everything at it.
Yes.
Let's have somebody completely in latex.
Yes,
And let's have somebody do it. It was just the things like that I just
It's like the movie version of those like really extreme Halloween haunted houses people go to. Like if somebody made a movie with that vibe or a show with that vibe.
Absolutely, that's what it is. It's like, what scary thing can we throw in today?
Like, why is there a scary clown in this witch story? Not really, but just like put it all in there at once.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
But Delicate Condition, the book, is not like that.
Yes.
It's very focused.
Nice.
But it's not... I didn't love it, but it was not bad. And I think I always need to say whether I listened to something or read something, because I just have a different experience sometimes.
I was going to say, it's a different experience.
And so I listened to this one, and I don't know how it would have changed it
if you'd read it.
But the person voicing the characters wasn't very memorable. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It just wasn't very memorable. So that could have impacted what I thought about it. But otherwise, it's a good creepy story.
Nice.
And then the next one I read was a little wilder, called The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. And it's a little bonkers. And it's about this normal guy
following so far. Cool.
Yeah, so far not too crazy. And you kind of get his perspective on what he's going through, and he clearly has mental health issues. His mother has passed away, and then there's a woman who moves in across the street who is looking for a serial killer. And then you get her perspective on how things are going.
Like she's just a person?
Her sister went missing.
Oh, so she's like
years ago.
Taking this
and
on.
So she's like, I'm going to find this person. But I will say that it does not do what you expect it to do.
Okay.
And very surprising, very twisty. And there's parts of it that are narrated by a cat.
Oh!
Which is not my normal reading. And as soon as I realized that that's what was happening, I kind of pushed pause and said, is this something that I want to continue?
Stop and take a moment.
And I did.
Good
and
for you.
I was happy that I did, because it was very surprising. I did not see the ending coming. I did listen to it. I've just been doing a lot of listening this week. I don't know why. But I was trying to do other things while listening.
I was going to say, I love to putter and listen. Yeah.
And so I recommend it. I would say stick with it, because it's going to surprise you.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Then I read The Angel of Indian Lake, which is by Stephen Graham Jones, which is the final of the trilogy. Which the first one is My Heart is a Chainsaw, and the second one is Don't Fear the Reaper. And
That's
I've
right.
talked about both of those. And Goodreads describes it as the most lauded trilogy in the history of horror literature.
Oh.
And I have really, if you're into horror, this is like the upper level of it. This is just, peak horror. If you're not, but you like pop culture, then I think you would still be interested. I think you'd stick with it, because the whole thing is about final girls, which we've talked about before. And so this is the final installment of the final girls experience.
Yeah.
And it wraps it up nicely.
Cool.
It introduces new elements that were not in the previous books. So it's like several years down the road from the last one. So basically, the first one takes place in 2015, the next one 2019, and then the last one 2023. Okay. So it's like, 4 years, I guess, in between each one.
I like that.
Yeah. I really like Stephen Graham Jones a lot, and this really, perfectly wrapped up that story. So
Yeah, we love a final girls premise, final girl premise. Which do you have of the final girl themed books you've read? Is there one that stands out?
Well, this trilogy is the best of
Okay,
those.
okay,
There's
cool.
also Riley Sager
Yeah.
has taken it on, and a couple of other.
There's a Final Girl support group. I can't remember who wrote that.
I think Grady
Was that Grady?
Hendrix.
Okay. Oh, yes, that's right.
And so, and those are fun.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
These are a little more serious and a little more, there's a lot more like discussion of actual films and
Cool.
even the philosophy behind Final Girls, and the others are, like good examples of Final Girls and like that concept, which if you're not familiar, a Final Girl is typically, it started in horror films, I think is when they started using that term, but it's like Jamie Lee Curtis and I can't think of the actor's name in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Who they go through each installment of these films.
Yes.
They're just
everyone else is dead and gone.
But they somehow
they're the last one standing.
Yeah,
at the end
they
of it
make
all.
it out. And then there's like a whole lot of features of that like tend to be in each of those, like the Final Girls, like their style, their personalities, and all of these characteristics that kind of carry on from one to the next.
Yep.
And so these books really do an in-depth dive into that concept.
Cool. Yeah.
And so really explores it while having very fast, I wouldn't say fast paced, but high energy, kind of constantly there's something happening.
Yes.
Just like in a horror film.
Yeah.
You don't, it's pretty relentless. But this one takes time to sort of examine all of this stuff.
I like
Why it
that.
happened, yeah.
I know that I wrote this down a long time ago, like maybe right after you'd read Hard as a Chainsaw. Either way, I'm writing it down again because I think I could be into this.
Yeah, I think so. And so basically the main character, Jade, has carried through each time. She's survived, and now she's coming back. She's actually served time because of what happened in the previous books, and which I'm not going to spoil anything, but she's coming back to her hometown, which is the small town in Idaho, and Indian Lake, which is in the title, is the lake where everyone lives there, and I think I'm going to say it's like 3,000 people, so everybody knows everybody, but they've just had horrible tragedies.
Oh no!
Which I think is what is kind of the funny part in these horror film franchises and stuff, is that why does anybody live there anymore?
Exactly.
I mean, the craziest stuff happens in this small town, and then they just clean it up and pick up and move on.
Does it just speak to how humans are? We just like our stuff and our familiar home.
Yeah. We'll just clean up the blood and
settle
stay
down here.
Yeah. Especially after the first time, sure.
Yeah, that was
could
such
just
a
be
freak
a one-off
situation.
Yeah. But the second time,
I'd start,
and it's
3 times, I'm out of there for sure.
Yeah, no more chances.
No more.
But yeah, so I think that there's much more complexity to it. It's not it is horror, but it's beyond a genre, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. Then I have not quite finished this, but I'm reading The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. And it was a nominee for Best Fantasy last year. And it's about this woman who is in another small town, another woman, young woman, who is part of her family has been it's in a matriarchy. And these women have this flower farm. And they're the most beautiful flowers, and starting to get an idea of something witchy something going on there.
How are they so
what's
beautiful?
going on? Yeah. And so the main character's mother, June Farrow is the main character. Her mother went missing when she was a baby. She was raised by her grandmother. Now her grandmother has passed away, but her grandmother had this for years and years, and it's apparently a curse over all of the women in this family that they lose their minds, and so they start having these like visions.
I have that curse in my family too.
I'm just kidding. Me too.
We all lose our minds. Sorry.
They usually wait till later. My family just from birth.
Yeah,
so,
just fully crazy.
Right
Straight out of the womb. Yeah.
But so this woman, so she's just buried her grandmother, and then it's revealed that she's started having already these hallucinations and visions and stuff. So she's thinking, well, this is it for me. This curse is gonna end my life early instead of like waiting till I'm in my 80s or whatever. So she's starting to kind of try to figure out what's going on with her. And so far, it is really good. The writing is good. The characters are interesting. The concept is good. So
nice.
Yeah, it's got some romance in there.
Yeah.
Some magic stuff. So yeah, it's
Love
good.
it.
Now I'll talk about some nonfiction. And I just read The Secret Lives of Booksellers and Librarians, True Stories of the Magic of Reading. And you'll never guess whose name is on the cover. I won't say who wrote it.
Crystal Hicks. Oh my gosh, who?
James Patterson.
Oh God.
And Matt Eversman, who is, I'm sure, actually did all the actual work. But it's just an accumulation of stories from booksellers and librarians.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, there's been a couple of other books that have been released in the past about like the crazier things that go on.
Yeah.
This is really not about that. This is more like heartwarming stories of,
love that.
I helped the child find the perfect book kind of thing.
I made them a reader.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the bookseller part, there's like some discussions of the struggles that bookstores have and how they're overcoming them.
Yeah.
And, if you're, library adjacent or bookstore adjacent, this would be a good book for you to read.
Cool.
But like I said, it's not, it doesn't talk about sort of the dark side or the secret history or anything.
Yeah.
It is, so The Secret Lives, I think, is kind of a misnomer. It is really more of just like interviews with people that are in those roles.
Right.
But not that it's bad, it's just, I wouldn't call it Secret Lives.
That does, make you think a certain thing.
Yeah. I just had different expectations.
Yeah, thank you for the disclaimer.
Yeah. Then I read Dust Tracks on a Road, a memoir by Zora Neale Hurston. And I read it a long time ago, but as I talked about last week, the book, This Exquisite Loneliness, has a chapter on her. And then... she was born and raised in this town called Eatonville, which was only African American. It was like the first incorporated African American city, town in Florida. And so I had just read This Exquisite Loneliness, talking about her being raised in this town and how that shaped her life. And then I'm watching the show Somebody Feeds Phil, which is the silly like food travel show. And he goes to Eatonville.
No. How funny.
And I was like reading that book when I was watching that.
How funny.
And he usually goes to places like Tokyo and whatever. But he goes to this small town in Florida, and
Crystal loves a coincidence.
I gotta talk about it.
You were delighted.
Yes. I was. In fact, that was a little dumbfounded. My jaw may have been agape at the time.
Does this mean something?
Right.
Do I go to Eatonville?
Must I go? So then I decided, well, I'll read the memoir. And she is everything that you would think Zora Neale Hurston would be in her writing. And so, she talks about her work growing up in this town, which was very unique, and it like helped shape her into someone who was, on the front lines of the culture battles and things like that. So it is funny and I touching, and
nice.
I would highly recommend it. And then the last book that I will talk about is another nonfiction, The 100 Years' War on Palestine, A History of Settler Colonialism and Resistance, 1917 to 2017. So, I'm all for, if you don't know about something, read a book about it.
Yeah.
And so there are, lots of things that I felt like I didn't know about the history.
Cool.
Of what's going on with Israel and Palestine. And so I wanted to read a book. And this one is very authoritative. It was written several years ago. And it just goes through all of that 100 years. And gives, personal accounts. The author, Rashid Khalidi, is from there. This was his family. This is, his life. And so there is a personal element, but it's also very factually well documented.
Sure.
And so if you're interested in that conflict, there's a lot of books about it, but this one is really good, and I'd highly recommend that.
Good.
And then in the past week, I have not watched anything.
I watched a little bit more of Killing Eve. I talked about that. But yeah, no, same. I've been moving and grooving this week.
Yeah. So I thought that we could recommend some podcasts.
Yeah.
And I've talked about these before, some of them at least, but some we haven't. So I thought I would do a reminder. I realized that I hadn't, in like a year, listened to any radio rental episodes, and there's a bunch of new ones. So I've been listening to those.
Ooh.
And if you haven't ever listened to radio rental, it is about, well, first of all, Rainn Wilson plays a character, which I fast forward.
I always do, bless him, but yeah, me too.
So he plays this guy Terry Carnation, who works in a video rental store, and then he says he finds these tapes with these stories that people are telling.
Yes.
Well, it's I don't think it's necessary.
I guess
I
they
like
just
the
wanted
stories.
some production around, but introduce it.
I mean, he's funny, but it's a little silly.
Yeah.
But the stories that are highlighted are just from random people that I guess call in or whatever.
I don't know what they're exactly.
They're dialing up with their rotary phone and calling in, but it's all stories that are creepy or
strange,
shocking or strange,
eerie.
Unexplained. Is the best thing.
Yes,
there's all different types, but they're all kind of unexplained and mysterious. And
Crystal and I have talked about some of the stories from the first season, like multiple times on here. I still think about some of them regularly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there were some that just really give you the chills.
And stories that I'm like, I want to get to the bottom. Like, I want to know, was this real or not? Like, was this person just totally crazy, or I don't know.
Well, I was listening to one that was really good that it stuck out to me because there have been several stories like this, and I even have some stories like this, but there was this group of, I think it was like pretty young girls out in the woods camping or something. And a guy pulls up or comes up, and I'm conflating two different stories, but there was a guy comes up and like is wearing a hoodie, can't see his face.
Nope.
I know. And there's no reason for him to be out there. And he's like, hey guys, want to go to a party? And
I'd be like, did my mom send you as a test?
I have puppies and candy in the van.
Exactly.
And they're like, no, obviously. And he's like, he just keeps saying it over and over again. Hey guys, you want to go to a party? And then they say no. Well, why not? And just keep, and any good story like that is even if it's just something that is, not that's pretty banal.
Yes.
But it's the
repeating it?
The repeating it and like in the same tone and where they are,
exactly.
where he is.
Makes such a difference.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And there were some other weird things about it, but
even just
they never figured it out. And so a lot of the stories are things like that. And another good one is I think that it's like at a summer camp, and the counselors go off. They have like their own little area where they go off at night, and so two of the counselors are a couple. So they go to sleep in their tent, and then the guy gets up and goes out in the middle of the night, and the girl wakes up and realizes that he's doing that, and he comes back and like hugs up behind her, which they're a couple,
Sure.
Hugs up behind her, but
Nope.
she realizes
Nope.
that it's not him.
No,
But she realizes after she gets up to go to the bathroom and sees him.
No.
And so they're both like, oh my God, so they have to like get the other counselors and the campers, and they're all running away. And then they go back and he's long gone. And
what?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know. Basically, I would say at least a third of the stories are something to do in the woods and camping and that kind of thing. So just don't do that. I feel like that's what I've learned.
Saying.
Don't go out in the woods. Sure, it's pretty, but it seems like, there's always you got all these stories of,
that's
other people
where the
being
weirdos are.
Yeah, So, but Radio Rental, the podcast,
Yay.
That sounds like something you want to do. Each episode is like 2 different stories, and you can just fast forward through Terry Carnation.
Yep, exactly. No, that's season 1, Laura of the Woods or something. That one was maybe one of my favorites. It was so good and creepy.
Yes, and I think we did talk about that, but yes, check that one out. That's probably the best one that I've heard.
That one, and there was like a alternate reality situation one.
Oh, yes.
Those two I think about. Oh, that one. And there was a possible alien abduction. I say that because it was like those 3. They'll pop into my brain every once in a while. I'm just like, what?
What could be the explanation?
Yes.
That was the thing.
Because
so many of them.
The way these people tell the story, too, is like they're so earnest in telling it.
And they are they believe
yes,
whatever it is.
2 of the stories that I just mentioned, couples break up because they experienced this crazy thing, and like one of them is trying to like process it and get to the bottom of it, and the other one is like, I'm trying to forget this forever.
Yeah, don't ever want to think about this again.
Insane. Anyway.
Yes, highly recommend.
Definitely.
And so the same company and same guy, producer, I guess, runs Tenderfoot, which is also has the podcast Up and Vanished. He has several.
Yeah.
But so Up and Vanished is another podcast that's started, I think almost 10 years ago, a long time ago, with this investigation into this woman who was murdered in Georgia. And so the podcast sort of investigated this, and then it resulted in them arresting people. And so that shot this guy to all kinds of prominence. So they're now in the 4th season of Up and Vanished, and it's about this Alaska native, a woman who went missing in 2020, and he just started it. So, there's a few episodes, but which I Up and Vanished. I was one of those that I listened to it every week when it came out. One of those. But then I just read something on Reddit that they said that Up and Vanished is the True Detective of podcasts because season 1 was amazing and then it's downhill ever since. And so I can see that.
Yeah. Because
how many times are you going to solve the murder?
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
And so it's still interesting.
Yeah.
And I think he does a good job. He does not have a good podcast voice.
Bummer.
He's very, like, monotone, but otherwise, if you haven't listened to the first season of it, I would recommend that.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens with season 4.
Yeah.
Maybe he will uncover what happens.
Wasn't that the thing with True Detective? Season 4 was better than 2 and 3, so we'll see.
Yeah, maybe that's all it is. I also listened to a podcast called Wheel of Misfortune, which one of the hosts is Fern Brady, who's a comedian, and I just read a book of hers recently. It was pretty funny. And so they literally spin a wheel and then talk about whatever crazy thing that is that, or they have people leave, like, voice notes that are their stories of these things, and they're hilarious.
Awesome.
And at first, one of the other hosts, and I can't think of her name now, but her laugh is like a wheeze. I mean, like a real wheezy, like squeezy sound.
Like you're worried?
Yes. Like this.
Are you
somebody
okay?
needs, like, she's clearly purple or blue.
Yes,
whenever she's
slap
doing
her on the back.
Yeah. And at first it was funny, but she wheezes so much and it's so extreme that it's a little distracting. But otherwise, it's pretty funny. And then another one that I think we would both recommend is Smartless.
Yes.
Which, it's Jason Bateman,
Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes.
Yes. So obviously 3 very funny people.
Yes.
And they just kind of talk about random things.
They bring on a different celebrity every week, and I love it because it's a different, like, one of them, they each take turns choosing, who a guest. And so it's a surprise to the other 2. They introduce them and it's a surprise. But their friendship dynamic is so delightful to listen to. Like, I listened to Steve Martin and Martin Short as guests recently, and they were even like, you guys are so wonderful to listen, like you want to be in the room with them, and they're great.
Yeah, it's a really good combination because Jason Bateman's really dry
and he is so funny.
Yeah, he
always plays kind of the straight man because he's great at that, but like he is super funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and Will Arnett is bonkers.
He is. He's like the bro of the group.
Yeah.
Like definitely the one who wants attention, but you embrace it.
And then Sean Hayes is like the heart.
Yes. Yes.
He's just like a sweet guy.
He keeps everyone on track. Yes. It's so delightful.
Yeah. So Smartless is really good. And then if you're into creepy horror, that kind of stuff, the last podcast on the left is...
That's right.
I haven't listened to it in a long time, but...
Same. I forgot it existed, and it's good. It was good. I liked it, yeah.
So that is a real quick roundup for this week, but when we've been so busy, we haven't been watching anything.
Busy girlies.
Yeah, we're getting ready for the summer.
Yeah.
And all of the fun stuff that we're going to be doing then. And hopefully still reading as much as we can, but
or puttering and listening.
yes that would be much more likely, actually. So I think that does it for the week, and we will be right back here next week.
3rd week in a row we've been on track. Look at us.
What?
We'll see.
Patting ourselves on the back.
Yeah, we'll keep this up for the summer, we swear.
Yes. It's totally gonna happen.
Yeah. Anyway, bye.
You're listening to Crystal and Emily on Love Your Shelf, the best librarian podcast in the extensive and highly competitive field of librarian podcasts.